people are just so arrogant. Like, they just really try to create this illusion like they did this by themselves. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be boxing, it could be anything, but you didn't get there by yourself.
Today I get to chat with the champ, Jamie the Miracle Mitchell. And Jamie's a boxing champion. She got the WBA belt over here, shining near the Moneyberg gold coin. But she outshining me right now, looking pretty fancy. You got some velvet on there. That thing is dope. I've never seen a boxing belt, so I'm excited.
It's pretty heavy as well. It's about 50 pounds.
Is it?
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. I get tired of carrying it sometimes.
You're getting your workout carrying it around.
Yeah. Not my true workout, but keeping me sharp.
You got a long path to, from where you started to where you're at. To be a champion at anything is difficult, and being a champion in a one-on-one sport, an individual sport where you don't get to make excuses of, oh, my teammate messed up, or so-and-so fumbled the ball.
Yeah.
It's like you're in there by yourself. You got to be responsible for your outcomes, and you got great teachers, you got great coaches, but at the end of the day, you got to be responsible for your own outcomes, and that's a lot of pressure on somebody. Why do you want to walk that path? Why did you choose to go down that road?
Well, I mean, that's not near as much pressure as I've been through in life, you know what I mean? This is actually me living out, one of my dreams, and I just kind of feel like no matter what you're doing in life, whether it's being in a combat sport or, working at 7-Eleven, it's all a fight, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm just basically doing something that I love to do, and I chose it because I felt like it chose me. I mean, basically, boxing was my first love. Before I started boxing, I was pretty good at fighting, naturally, just due to my situations and stuff like that I came through. Fighting was something that was, you had to do or you probably wouldn't make it, almost kind of like speaking up for yourself or, fighting for what you know is right, you know what I mean? So, boxing was just basically like a second cousin to what I've already been through. So, and that's pretty much how I chose it. I mean, I was already fighting on the streets and stuff like that, and I just needed something to channel, what I was going through at that point in time. So.
When did you start looking for training, like professional training, and thinking about that as a sport versus, having violent situations with, in your home circumstances or, out in the streets?
Well, I mean, I was 10 days old when I got taken up from my mom, and, went through a lot of trauma. I mean, being child abused, starved, beer being put in my bottle and not knowing what happened next. And by the time I was 6, I left that foster care home and went somewhere else. And it was a good situation, better than what I had came from, but I was already damaged goods. So I didn't know how to respond to the love that was being given to me because I was so used to living with torture every day. So she was not doing well in her health. She had diabetes, and so she couldn't take care of me anymore. So then I went to another home placement called McLaren Hall in Los Angeles, California. Pretty much like a boarding care for kids. And my behavior just got worse because I didn't understand what was happening. I'm like, yo, who are all these people that I'm always with? One day I'm here, the next day I'm there. So it was just pretty much causing me more hurt. Feeling like, I don't have nobody or I don't belong. I don't have a mom or a dad, at that point in time. So, and I didn't know my parents, you know what I mean, back then. So it just went from that to just my behavior kept getting worse because I was crying out for help. I was a kid, you know what I mean? And certain situations happened, kind of like went a little bit too far with my anger and ended up in juvenile hall. And from there, they were like, we're gonna let you. I was there for about 2.5 years, which is not normal to be in juvenile hall, but they didn't have anywhere in the system in California to place me. So they just kept me in juvie. And once I left juvie, it was pretty much, we're gonna let you leave, but you can't come back to California until you're 18. And I left there when I was 16 and a half. And I went when I was 14. So they sent me to Texas. And my behavior kind of got better because it was almost like, everybody in life wants choices. So I went from not having a choice to going to Texas having a choice, at least 2 of them. We all want at least 2 choices, even if they're horrible. We still want to be able to feel like we have some type of independence, and so they gave me that. and it was structure, and it was a home setting, something that I didn't have. It was always an institution setting. This was a home setting, so it kind of changed my outlook. But I still love to fight. It's just something that I was born with, and I was really good at it. Even on the streets before I even knew anything about a combat sport or how to even lace up some gloves or some boxing shoes. I just really loved to do it. So I got into a fight one day out there in Texas, in the home, and one thing about me, I've never done anything that I felt you didn't deserve. So I was basically self-defending myself, and I got the better of the situation. And they have a program to where they kind of talk about, what did you do wrong and what could you have done differently and all this blah 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 stuff that they knew not to talk about with me. Because I was going to take the whole show that you were trying to put on me and reverse it. I was really good at it. I was really smart, you know what I mean? And so they was like, what can we do to make you stop fighting? I was like, I want to box. I don't know where it came from. It just came out of me. So he was like, you want to box? I'm like, yeah, I want to box right now. And so he was like, all right, here's the deal. Don't do this, don't do that. If you say this and say that, I'm taking you out. So it was kind of like a catch-22. I'm a kid. Of course, I'm not going to be perfect. He wanted me to be perfect, which he knew I wasn't. He didn't want me to box, but he wanted to give me something as a temporary Band-Aid. So he sent me to the boxing gym, paid all my dues the next day, and I fell in love. They threw me in there the first day, which is not something that you do in boxing. You're not supposed to spar or even get inside the ring, period, for like 3 months. So they threw me to the wolves. The Sharks ate me up, but I loved it. You know what I mean? I was 16 years old, and I sparred with a girl. She was tall as crap, and she was 32 years old, and I didn't know what I was doing, when it came to boxing, you know what I mean? I didn't know the art behind it and the master game behind it, and just outthinking somebody and making them step here, just having that kind of a control over somebody. It's a different type of control. It's a whole different ball game. I didn't understand it, but I loved it. Came back the next day. Fat, stupid, and happy. Got my ass whooped the other day, you know what I mean? And, I came back, I fell in love with it. Most people, they retire their first day of sparring. You know what I mean? So that's what got me into it, but I was still in the foster care system, so I wasn't free. So I think I was in there for maybe like a few weeks, not even a month, training. And I said the word damn, and they took me out of boxing. Just because I said the word damn. Yeah, that was a story. That's how I got into it. But it was my first love. It was the only thing that made me do right and made me care. Because before that, I was running amok. I didn't care. Listen, I look what I've been through. You think I care about what you're talking about? You show me some type of love is what I wanted. You know what I mean? And I wasn't getting that. So it's just like, okay, this is what I do for a living. You guys basically lock kids up for a living. Okay, I'm gonna make you work for your money. So before that, before boxing, I had that type of mentality. So I got out of Texas when I was 18. I met my son's father when I was 19 in Monterey, California. And good guy, really good guy. You know what I mean? Have nothing bad to say about him. Really great father. May he rest in peace. But through all of that, I ended up finding a boxing gym out in the Monterey Bay area, Salinas, California. And I just took off with my career. I just started competing, going to all the tournaments, all the amateur programs, going through the rankings. I was like 11-time national champion. I went to the Olympic trials in 2012 when it was the first time women can even participate in the Olympics. I was one of the first women who were able to even go to the Olympic trials. So I ranked in at 2 in the nation in 2012. Then I turned around and ranked in at 1 in the nation, a gold medalist in 2016. So I just started, it just started becoming an addiction, boxing. And then in 2017, I believe that's when I turned pro. So I had about 50 fights and 6 losses in amateurs, and now I'm 10-0 as a pro with 5 knockouts. So now I just became the WBA world champion. I went to overseas to the UK to get the WBA belt and took it off the champ. So
you got about 18 years of real boxing training.
Yeah, well, I started competing in 2009. Yeah.
So you know what? I'll share a couple things about my early life that I'm not trying to compete in any way, and you got a very different story, but you might find some of my shenanigans relatable. That you've definitely been around a couple mischievous men yourself in life.
Yeah.
So, my early things started off real good for me. My father had a lot of money. We had 5 houses. We had 16 vehicles. And when I was 7, he went to prison for cocaine trafficking. And my uncle too. And those were like the only guys that were in my life, you know. And you know, my mother was adopted, and she had her own type of problems of which are different than yours. But you know, she always felt like she didn't belong or not good enough or some stuff. And I think you could relate to that in some way. And, her parents took really good care of her. Frankly, I think she was very ungrateful. Her parents were good people. They took really good care of her. And I think she never appreciated how good she had it, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was not the best mother. So I was at home with her alone, and you know, a lot of violence in the household and violence outside the household, and you know, we had a lot of welfare for, you know, from the time my dad was gone. The government takes everything, you know.
Yeah.
So I grew up from like age 7 till I was an adult, like a, you know, welfare.
Yeah.
I really hated that shit.
Yeah.
And I was around, you know, rich people or famous people as a child, as a little child.
So you really couldn't relate to that.
Man, you know, I saw how that looked, and I thought, like, you know, I didn't appreciate it at the time because I was a kid. You know, I was, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. But when all that shit got taken away, and you're sitting home with your fat crazy mom on collecting a welfare check, and you know, that was the only thought in my head is I got to go build something, make something, do something to make my life more like that was, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't want, you know, I did all kinds of crazy shit as a teenager, and I was just, you know, if you're in that type of environment, that's how it is. And
yeah, you're definitely
understand.
gonna be a mirror of what you see.
So I found out myself in jail. I was 17. I never went to juvenile homes. I had plenty of trouble. I went to juvenile court a few times. I was in court. You know, my mother was pretty physically abusive. So I'd be in court for truancy from school and stuff like that. And twice I had to go to court that the government's going to take me away from my mom and put me in these, you know, foster care homes when I was. I never said that on the camera before, but that's true. I don't think I even said that to these guys before, but twice I had to go to court where the government's going to take me away from my mom and put me, you know, maybe in a worse situation.
It's crazy, yeah. It's definitely a worse situation.
Yeah. So I didn't like that idea. So you know, I had to, you know, basically say no, you know, let me stay home with this crazy bitch.
Yeah. So at least you know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Stay with the devil. You know.
You're familiar with that. Yeah.
So. Anyway, some elements of your early life I find relatable in that sense that, you know, the kids I grew up with, my 6 close friends, like 3 of them are dead, and one of them's doing 30 years, one of them's got life in federal prison, and, you know, still in my teenage years, I was, you know, stabbed and all sorts of violent shit. And so anyway, yeah, I had to find my own path out of that as well, that I was just like, fuck this, and I didn't know what to do, but I knew I wasn't going to stay there, you know?
Yeah. It's easier to do bad, though. It's really hard to go through what you went through and not really have no guidance, you know what I mean, and be more successful than what you were in, you know.
I really wanted to do better, but I didn't have, you know, and I'm not making no excuses. It's, you know, I'm an adult man, and it's my, you know, my outcomes as an adult, or it's my fault, or it's I did that good or bad, you know. But as a kid, like I wanted to do good. I was willing to work hard. My brain worked good. I was willing to work hard. I wasn't like a lazy person at all. But I just said I didn't have good role models, you know. Like I had a lot of people around me doing negative things, and I take notes of that, of like, well, you know, I'm not going to be a drug addict like these other people.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not going to do some of this other crazy shit that I see some people doing. So I had some really strong anchors in my head of like, you know, don't get yourself caught up in this or that. But I didn't have somebody that was trying to show me, you know,
how to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. So, you know, I kind of felt, I was 10 when I kind of had a very clear click in my head of like, there ain't nobody coming to help you or save you or some shit, that you're going to have to figure some things out by yourself. And, you know, you have your own version of that. And again, I'm not trying to tell a competing story, but I could relate to what you said maybe more than you.
Yeah, I was actually 10 years old when I made a promise to myself that didn't know if I was ever going to have kids or not, whatever, but I made a promise to myself. I was 10 years old, and I said, whenever I have kids, I'm going to be a good mom, and I'm never doing drugs, and I'm never doing alcohol. That I made a promise to myself. That other shit, I was like, yeah, we gonna run amok until it's time to, like, you know, because I knew it's almost like you're serving a life sentence for something you didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're in those type of situations as a child, it's just like, okay, if I go and kick this over, then yeah, I'm gonna go to jail. You know, I know that. You know, I'll probably get a couple years for that. But it's like you're born into to being locked up. And it's like, I understood, like you say, you know, that shit ain't nothing I could do good or bad, so I might as well just be bad and make y'all work for y'all money and watch how you guys jump up and down so I can make y'all feel how I feel. You know, but then when I turned 18, I was like, all right, cool, it's over with. They not playing with me no more, so I had to, you know, get it together.
You said different times growing up that you felt you were special, that you knew you could do some things or organize people or organize your own brain to get things done that most people just can't do. And I had moments of that here and there, but you know, mostly other people would tell me that, you know, teachers or, you know, people say, you know, oh, you got so much potential. That's the way they say it. You got so much potential. You got so much potential.
Yeah.
Most people don't do shit with their potential.
Yeah, everybody has
Most
potential.
people don't do
so.
a damn thing with their potential. So,
Yeah.
what would you say to somebody out there that, you know, maybe they're struggling right now, maybe they're having a dark time in their life, that they know some part of their brain, they know they could be more, they know they could do more.
The thing I would say to the people out there, I would say look at my story, look at Derek's story and listen to what we're saying, and that alone should be able to tell you, like, you can do more than whatever you think you can't do. And, you know, don't be so small-minded. Don't just write yourself off, oh, I can't do it, or it's impossible, or, you know, because then, you know, it's like you become a product of that, you know what I mean? And just kind of like watching, self-talking, you know what I mean? Sometimes when it feels good to hear a compliment, right? I mean, it feels good to have somebody say, hey, you're doing a good job, but when you could look yourself in the mirror and say, tell yourself you're doing a good job, you know what I mean? And just going from there and building off of that. But, you know, trust me and believe me, a lot of people, me, Derek, you, other people around the world, has went through a tough time, but it gives you character. And if you don't understand that it's giving you character, then you won't understand that you can't get throughout that, you know what I mean, mindset that you're telling yourself you can't do it, you know what I mean? Sometimes we say we had a bad day, but really you just had a bad hour. But you write the whole day off because you had a bad hour. So it's just kind of like understanding what you're going through and just kind of like embracing it and just know, okay, it's giving me character. And you know, you could do anything you put your mind to, and that's not, I know everybody always say that, but it's really, really true. You could do anything, if you put your mind to it, you can do it, you know. So.
If you put in the work with it.
Yeah, you definitely got to put the work, you know, it's definitely a must that you have to put in the work. Can't be lazy.
There's this crazy shit on the internet. People think that you can have, you know, you're going to you could fantasize about a better future and it's going to magically happen. And
you call that meditating or something like that? Meditating or?
You know, they call it, you know, oh, I'm going to, you know, if I just meditate and focus on, you know, prosperity or abundance, it's going to magically happen or some shit. And I'm like, no, that's not been my experience. I got nothing against meditation, but you know, you can meditate and clear your mind, but then you got to stand up and go get some shit done.
Yeah,
you got to go do something.
You got to do the work that comes along with it.
So,
nothing's wrong with meditating at all, but it's still labor that has to be done. And you can't just go to work and sit there and expect to keep this job. You're going to get fired eventually.
The point of the meditation is to clear your brain so you can go do more, so you can accomplish more, not so you can be lazy and blame somebody else for your lack of success.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more about you?
PavelAthletics.com, and that's where you can find my story. You can learn about me. You can purchase things, sweaters, hats, hoodies, phone cases, backpacks, socks, and just learn more about me. And also, you can also go to my social media handlings, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, Jamie the Miracle Mitchell.
Jamie the Miracle Mitchell. We'll put that in the Instagram. We'll put that on YouTube. Last question I've asked every champion that I interviewed. About 100 almost. And they all gave me the same answer, so no pressure. You ever seen anybody that had a belt around their waist or Olympic gold medal, Super Bowl ring, or a fancy trophy of some kind held high above their head in that universal sign of victory? You ever seen anybody like that didn't have a great coach, a great teacher, some training partner, somebody that helped them along their way to achieve that success?
No. I haven't never seen that.
Yeah, you said that earlier too. That it's a ridiculous idea that somebody's going to do be the top
like
person in the world without that help.
You can't get anywhere by yourself. And I just think people are just so arrogant. Like, they just really try to create this illusion like they did this by themselves. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be boxing. It could be anything. But you didn't get there by yourself, and it's just like people are so quick to tell you, oh, do this and do that. Okay, but how? People don't really want to invest that time into you. And it could be a multitude of reasons, but, you definitely can't get there anywhere by yourself. And I've never seen anybody, I have some gold medals. I have, I've ranked in at 2-1 in the nation. I have best fights of the nights. I have belts. I have like 11 amateur belts, and I didn't do it by myself. And I'm always so sure to mention, my team after every victory. You know what I mean? I always mention my team. I know my hard work and my talent, my God gifts got me there, but I was smart enough to choose the right team. And sometimes you have to be smart enough to know when you outgrew your situation, because when you try to overstay your welcome, that's when you start plateauing, so. But no, to answer your question, I've never seen that. Not by yourself.
If you got a team, a bunch of mediocre people around you, you can anticipate a mediocre outcome. If you want to have champion outcomes, you got to have champion coaches. You got to have the highest quality guidance, people to hold you accountable. You got to hold yourself accountable. You can't be making excuses. You got to love your goals more than your excuses. Everybody got excuses. The more successful you are, the smarter or wealthier or more successful you are, your excuses sound better and better.
Yeah.
They sound better and better. But when you start loving your excuses more than your goals, you're going to start failing from that point forward. Don't do that to yourself. You can do better. Jamie, thank you so much for coming through. I appreciate you. Big respect for what you've done and what you're going to do next.
Appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys keep following my career, my success, and I'll be fighting in 2022 summer. And make sure you tune in, Matchroom Boxing, download the zone, check me out. I'm something nice.
Hey there, this is Rohan, and I just finished Markets Mastery program by Derek Moneyberg. And I wanted to give a final review of the course and how it went for me and what somebody else could look to get out of it. So, firstly, when you get into the course, you're gonna get a lot of information about how to assess the market psychology of other investors, of institutions that are investing, and you get to understand, how to start to evaluate companies. So you won't fall into, the traps of the masses and just following the herd off the cliff. You're going to actually understand the intrinsic value of companies, see what's undervalued and why, both due to, financial indicators, and then, obviously seeing what people are misjudging due to different emotions that are going on at that period in time. So that's going to be big. From there, you're going to learn more advanced strategies about, when to get into different positions, how to optimize your returns through options and things like that. You're going to learn about cryptocurrencies, Forex, really whatever you're into. But, importantly on top of that is not just having the understanding how to evaluate those different assets you might be investing in. You're also going to understand, yourself, what your risk profile is and why, and then some strategies on how to mitigate those risks. So I'd really say that the program would appeal to somebody at any skill level. So whether you're just starting out or you're very advanced, you're going to get to refine your understanding of these things and get a great peer group of people to interact with that will help you refine those understandings even further. On top of that, you're going to have access to Derek for, multiple weeks, where every single week he's going to come on. You could type in your questions, get those answered. Having that feedback from somebody who's so experienced and successful is, priceless. And then there's also other coaches involved in the program who are going to talk to you directly, give you feedback and accountability to make sure you really understand what you're doing. So, on top of that, you've got access to all the people going through the program. You're going to get to interact with one another and set up, relationships that are going to last you after the program and really propel your success forward in life. So, yeah, if that doesn't help your confidence in investing, I don't know what would. So it's the best thing that I've personally found to help with, learning to invest in my experience.